We're going to take a look at simplifying radical expressions. So again, let me go ahead and make a tab, and we're just going to title it Simplifying Radicals. That means it has a square root. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and copy the steps down. Pause it and copy the steps down. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and copy the steps down. Alright, so let's take a look at an example. Example 1. Let's say we had the fourth root, and that's represented by that 4 outside the square root, of 16x5. Is it even? If it's even, you're going to put absolute value in the answer, but if it's in the answer, you're going to leave it out. Break down the number and the variables in the smallest terms. So just like we did before with the prime tree or the prime factorization, break down 16. So 16, I can break it in 4 times 4. Again, keep breaking it down till you have prime numbers. So 2 times 2 and then 2 times 2 again. Then just check it to make sure. 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Perfect. So I can break 16 down into the prime root, so the prime factorization. So we're going to rewrite this as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's the 16. And x5 is how many? 5 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 x's. So it's broken down. Once you're broken down, how many do you need to make a book? The number outside is the number you need to write a book. So you're going to add that onto your notes. N is the number to make a book. It tells you how many of those you need to make one book. So 4 of them to make one book. So I'm going to count 4, circle it, and take that outside the library one at a time. So I take a 2 out. So it makes one book outside. I need 4 of those. I've got 1 X outside. And then what do you have left inside? Just an X. And then remember, if n was even, you have to put absolute value. But if it's even on the outside, then you don't. But it's not even on the outside because it has 1. So I do need to put the absolute value. So you do need to remember that last step. Alright, so this one's not even because it's x to the power of 1. So you need the absolute value in there. If it was x to the power of 2, it's even, so you wouldn't need the absolute value. Alright, let's take a look at another example. You get the hang of it the more examples I do. So let's say we had the square root, and by the way, the square root can be written as this or without that too, but I'm putting it there so we can know what books it is. Is it even or odd? It's even. So remember, it's going to have absolute value in the answer unless the answer is an even number as well. So let's break it down. 81, just like we did with prime factorization. So we're going to begin with 81. We're going to break it down to 9 times 9. Break that down to 3 times 3, 3 times 3. So now I have 4 sets of 3s. Again, check your answer to make sure it's right. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. 27 times 3 is 81. Alright, so now you're going to rewrite it with the broken down part of it. So it's going to be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then how many x's do we have? 8 of them. So count 8 basically. Alright, once it's broken down, ask yourself how many do I need to make a book? So I need 2 to make a book. So that's what I need to do, take it out the library. So I'm going to circle every 2 times it happens and take it out the library. So I've got a 3 outside. Alright, another 3 outside. An X outside. Another X outside. Another X outside. And another X outside. What's left in the library? Nothing. So everything's outside. So now let's combine terms. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then how many X's do I have? 4. Now remember, if it's even, you need absolute value unless that exponent is even. If it's even, you don't put the absolute value. So that would be the answer, 9x to the 4. So if it was x to the 5, then you would put absolute value. So write that down. Since 4 is even, an even number, you don't put absolute value in the answer. Alright, take a look at another example. Example 3, let's say we're breaking down the square root of 845x to the 4th power. And remember, I told you that you can write square root just like that without the number outside. But we're going to rewrite it the number outside so we know how many books to take out. So I'm going to write a 2. So square root is automatically always a 2. Alright, so again, break 845 down. Alright, remember, if it ends with a 5 or a 0, I know 5 goes into it. Just in case, there's the notes for it. So I know 5 times something is 845. So I'm just going to do long division, figure out what that is. So it goes 169 times. Now we're going to break down 169 times. I know that's 13 times 13. But if you don't, you'd have to find out what it is. So 5 times 13 times 13 is going to be 845. This is a listening check. This is a listening check. Double underline the word radical in the title. Double underline the word radical in the title. So write it down broken down. So 845 breaks down into 5 times 13 times 13. And then x to the 4 is x, 4 of them. So x to the 4. Alright, again, now we're taking books of 2. So I need, break down the number as well. How many books do you need? I need 2. It's going to make a book. Take each book out the library one at a time. So I'm going to circle the 2 of 13s. That makes 1 book. So 1 book outside. That's an x outside and another x outside. What's left inside? Just the 5. Alright, so then combine like terms outside. So it's going to be 13x squared square root of 5. Alright, then again, remember to check that n. Was the n even? Yes. Then you need absolute value in the answer, but not if it's even outside. So it's even outside, so I don't need absolute value. Again, if it's even outside, it's x to the 2nd power. It's even outside, I don't need it. If it wasn't even, I would need absolute value. Alright, another example, negative x to the 6th power y to the 11th. Okay, this one's a very special ideal. You have to take that negative out first. Okay, so I'm going to separate it. So it's going to be the cube root of negative 1 and then x to the 6th y to the 11th, because negative 1 3 times will give you negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So when you go the other way backwards, it's still going to be a negative outside. So break it down as usual. So if it's even and odd, this time it's odd, so we don't have to worry about absolute value. So when you finish the problem, don't worry about absolute value. So it's going to be a negative 1 outside, and then you're going to break down x to 6, 6 of them, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then 11 y's, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 y's. Alright, now we're going to take, how many do we need to make a book? So we need 3 to make a book. Take each book out at 1 at a time. So we're going to circle 3 at a time, and that's going to be a book. So we'll have negative 1 outside, and then there's one x, there's another x, there's a y, there's another y, there's another y, and we have 2 y's left inside. So you're just going to write that in as 2 y's. Alright, once you've done that, again, just like normal, combine like terms. So we're going to have negative, and then how many x's do you have? 2 of them, x squared, y 3, and then y squared inside. Now we don't have to worry about absolute value because it was odd in the first place, so we don't have to worry about absolute value. We're just going to leave it as it is, and that's our answer. Okay, so it's a special case when you have a negative inside. You have to actually think backwards. Alright, example 5, the 4th root of x to the 9 and y to the 4th. Alright, so is n even? Is the number outside even? Yes, it is. So you have to have absolute value unless the exponent is already even outside. Then you don't. So let's break it down. How many x's do I need? 9. So count out 9 x's. How many y's do I need? 4. So count out 4 y's. Alright, now remember, how many do you need to make a book? Alright, so I need 4 because that's the exponent outside. Take 1 out at each at a time. So we're going to circle 4 and take it out. 1, that's an x outside. Circle another 4. That's another x outside. X remains and the y's. So inside we still have 1x. Alright, then it says combine like terms. So outside we're going to have x squared, because x times x, x squared, y, and then the 4th root of x. Now remember, it was even, so we need to have absolute value unless it's even outside. So x squared is even, so no absolute value there. But y isn't. Y is the power of 1, which is odd. So we need absolute value with the y, and then everything else is the same. So x squared, absolute value y, and the 4th root of x. This is a listening check. This is a listening check. Circle every answer for every example. Circle every answer for every example and shade it in. So again, is it even or odd? It's even. So there's absolute value in the answer unless it's already even outside. Alright, so let's break it down. So it's going to be 4 x's and 5 y's. And this time we need books of what? What needs to make a book? How many needs to make a book? 4. So I need to circle 4, and that's 1 book. So circle 4, so that's an x outside. And circle 4 of the y's, that's a y outside. What's left inside? Just 1 y. So the 4th root over y. Now remember, it was even, so we need absolute value unless it's already even outside. Both of those are odd because it's x to 1, so we need absolute value for both. This is a listening check. This is a listening check. Shade in example 6. Shade in example 6. The box around example 6. And that's it. So let's practice.